Inner Space. You are listening to ABC FM Stereo. I am Jaroslav Kovaricek. Very good evening to you and welcome to Inner Space. Tonight we are to hear Inner Space number 100. Yes, this program has been heard on Saturday evenings on ABC FM Stereo for nearly 2 years. I hope that among those 99 editions produced so far, there were at least a few you've enjoyed listening to. I certainly do enjoy producing them. When preparing this edition, number 100, I've used the opportunity to look back and think about the kind of programs the listeners found most satisfying. I received many letters asking about the Buddhist monk Ajahn Brahmavaṃso, who appeared in several editions of Inner Space. And that's why I've decided to bring him into Inner Space once again. Tonight's program is not a repeat of any earlier programs, but a compilation from several of his talks. I hope you find his discourse on meditation as joyful and inspiring as I do. Ajahn Brahmavaṃso was born in London. While still at school, he became interested in Buddhism after reading a book on the subject. He went on to study theoretical physics at Cambridge, where he graduated in 1973 as Master of Arts. After teaching mathematics and physics for a year, he went to Thailand to become a monk. In 1975, he went to Ajahn Chah's monastery in northeast Thailand, where he spent the following 8 years. In 1983, he came to Australia, and here he lives in a Buddhist monastery, meditates, works as monk, and gives wonderful talks on the art of Buddhist meditation. He's a very wise, refined, and remarkable man, with great sense of humor. So, let's hear now Loving Kindness, Joyful Art of Buddhist Meditation, presented by Ajahn Brahmavaṃso.
Whenever there's a problem, a very good question to ask is, what do you want? What do you want right now? If there's something you want, that's why you're suffering. If you don't want anything, there's no problem. Sometimes the pain is pain in the body. What do you expect? Two lovely words. What do you want? And what do you expect? Because really you can't expect this body to be healthy and at ease throughout the whole of your life. It's like, I remember somebody came with these marital problems and we were saying about this and about that and going on, telling the woes of their life, expecting this particular monk to solve all their problems for them. They give them a good answer so they could be happy with their husband and their children. so the kids wouldn't be sending her berserk. What should I do? Why is it like this? And all the monk answered was, what do you expect? You get married and have kids. So it's not the sort of answer we want, is it? What we want is come to a retreat is enlightenment pills. Where a monk can just give us a pill, or someone give us a pill, save all the problems. But it never works that way. It's like the Buddha said, it was like a soldier going out into battle. If you join an army, you can expect to get wounded. So if you come after you've got wounded crying, oh, why did I get wounded? What do you expect? You join the army. But what do we expect if we take human birth? What we can expect is to die at any time. Don't know how long we're going to live. That's what we can expect by being a human being. We can expect pain in the body sooner or later. We can expect sickness. If it lasts that long, we can expect death. Or we can expect old age, and then we expect death. This is what we expect. Even when we get sick and we go into hospital, we can expect to die even. When I went into the hospital, I had typhus fever in the monastery in Thailand. Ajahn Chah would come in. He really lovely monk he was. He'd come in and said, you'll either get better or you'll die. Really cheered me up a lot that day. It was really true though, wasn't it? That would happen. At least you knew you weren't going to be sick all the time. At least it was going to pass. You'd either get better or you'll die. And this is our life, isn't it? That's why the Buddha was really great, because he didn't really... he told it as it was. You know, in Buddhism they have what they call the Four Noble Truths. Just basic Dhamma. You don't tell about the Four Noble Truths at the beginning of a retreat, you wait towards the end. Because sometimes it's not very pleasant to hear what life is all about. What we would like to hear, what is very popular, is that everyone lives happily ever after. That's the fairy story, isn't it? We get married, live happily ever after, have beautiful kids, no problems. But the reality is that there is pain, there is disappointment, there is physical suffering in this world. What can we expect? It's like one very wise Zen master put it very, very eloquently. It says, like, being born as a human being is just like getting on a boat and sailing away, knowing the boat's going to sink. This is what we've all got to look forward to. one nice thing though about life is that you go and see someone like Ajahn and he's happy. What's wrong with being sick? You might as well laugh when you're sick. That's the trick of this life, isn't it? To learn how to be happy no matter what. And when we talk about the Four Noble Truths, that traditionally, that those of you who have read up about Buddhism and come across Four Noble Truths before, it's traditionally explained as the noble truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the way out of suffering. Which is fair enough, but I like to explain it another way. This is my character really. I like to explain it as happiness, the cause of happiness, the end of suffering, and the way to be happy. What is happiness and how to get it? How to be happy? That's all the Buddha was talking about. What's happiness and how to be happy? He added a couple of other noble truths. The first thing he said was there is happiness, first of all. There is a state of happiness. Real happiness which isn't dependent on any condition. Happiness no matter what. Happiness even if you've got AIDS. If you've got cancer, if your family's just falling apart, if your body's falling apart, if you can't sit meditation for your life, is that happiness which transcends everything. That's it, the element of nibbana, enlightenment, isn't it? That's happiness. If it ain't happiness, it's a waste of time trying for it, isn't it? But in the scriptures it does say, Nibbanang paramang sukhang, which translates that Nibbana is the highest happiness, just as well. Because I know in my life that happiness is always a carrot which draws me on. I'm not a masochist. I wouldn't do this if it was hurting. I only practice because I enjoy it, because it's fun, because it brings me happiness, and it brings happiness to other people as well. That's the only reason I can practice. And when I meditate, I see what makes me happier, and that's what I go for, more and more happiness in my meditation. If it's giving me more pain, I ease away from it. I find some way out of it. That's my life, that always has been my life, and I've noticed that with everyone else, the whole movement of our life is a search towards happiness. It's not towards pain. We always seek and search for happiness in so many different ways. So the Buddha recognized this, and he said that there is such a thing as happiness. You can be at peace, you can be content, you can be serene no matter what is happening. He said that even if some big blokes come and hold you down and saw you in half with a two-handed saw, not with a chainsaw, just really slow with a two-handed saw, just backwards and forwards, saw, first of all through the skin and then the flesh, and finally after about 10 minutes they reach the bones, crunch, crunch, crunch. So he would be happy if that happens. So there is that happiness which does transcend pain and suffering. Someone gave me a poem some years ago about this. It was a poem about someone who had this terrible, terrible disease. He said I can't remember the whole of the poem, but I remember the gist of it. He said that there are some pains in this life which are useful, which protect our body. And they're such as like a pain when you hit your finger, or where you go close to a fire. But he said there are some pains in this world which have no use whatsoever. These are chronic pains which go on and on and on without any relief. But he said that they have a use, really. They have a use for you to understand. and to go beyond these pains. And when you go beyond these pains, this chronic pain which is there all the time, such a sense of peace. And when one reaches that sense of peace, one realizes that chronic pain was worthwhile after all. I thought that was a lovely poem, but what really struck me, and the reason it was given to me, it was written by an 8-year-old boy who had this degenerative disease of the bones or the blood or something, and it was chronic pain ever since he could speak. And he died when he was about 8, or a few months afterwards, or a year afterwards. But what a wonderfully inspiring little poem that was. The fellow had won. He transcended the pain. He found that peace which was above and beyond physical pain. So that was what the Buddha called the third noble truth, that there is an end to suffering. There is absolute happiness no matter what you're experiencing. Old age, sickness, death, pain, being tortured. You're still being able to crack a joke. And he said that the way towards that, or the reason why one experiences that state is through letting go of desire, letting go of aversion, being wise. Desire for things, for achievements, is what stops people being at peace, being happy, being at ease. It's like Oscar Wilde said that there's only two real tragedies in this life. He said the first tragedy is not getting what you want. We all know what that's like. He said the second tragedy is getting what you want. It's true, isn't it? Because when one gets what one wants, one's always disappointed. So that whatever you think it's going to be is always something else. Whatever you desire it to be, it's different. So much of life is in the anticipation. When I was 17, I went hitchhiking around North Africa. There was an Algerian fellow who picked me up and gave me a long lift. And I remember him always saying, he said that life is hope. And for a lot of people it is hope, isn't it? Always hoping for something else. The anticipation is the drug. When you actually achieve it, the bubble bursts and you have to want something else. It's the hoping, the anticipating, the striving for something is what drives most people's lives. There's always something else one wants. One of the most powerful meditations, which I discovered in a very rare part of the Buddhist scriptures, was very much the no desire meditation. You just sit there, make no desire, make lack of desire the main thing, the way it's translated. It's a lovely thing to try. Sitting here not wanting anything. Often if I'm watching the breath and you get to the feeling of being stuck and not satisfied with the meditation. You know what it's like sometimes when you're sitting here and it doesn't seem to be going well. It's a very good time to do the lack of desire meditation. To say to yourself, lack of desire. And when you say these mantras to yourself, these little auto-suggestions, lack of desire, whenever you say a word like that, or a group of words describing a feeling, after you say it, the feeling remains with you. I say lack of desire. What that means stays with you for a while. It resounds. And then when you forget it, when it disappears from your mind, you have to say it again to yourself, lack of desire. As long as you can remember that, and it's the intention uppermost in the mind, you no need to say it again. And then when it disappears, one says it once more, lack of desire. And you find that when you say this word to yourself, when you remember it, when it becomes the main guiding force in the meditation, you do give up desire for anything. Desire to be free of pain, desire to be at peace, desire to be enlightened, desire for the minutes to go quickly. All desire disappears. So when there's lack of desire, there's wonderful peace, there's wonderful serenity, wonderful joy. The more one can give up, the more one has. So that's why the Buddha made a big deal about letting go of desire, because it brings one peace. It's as if one goes searching everywhere for happiness. I want to get this and then I'll be happy. I want to go there and then I'll be happy. I want to get peace and then I'll be happy. Not realizing that happiness is already here. You don't need to have anything more. You don't need to desire and get something else. Only stop searching outside of the moment. Stop searching outside of what's already here and now. Stop is the important word. Stop means giving up desire. Stop searching, stop doing, stop becoming, stop getting, stop going. Stop means being still. Stillness means peace. Peace inside of us. That's giving up desire. But the opposite of desire is aversion, it's anger. And anger is always a big problem for human beings. And it's very easy to see anger because it's so strong. Desire is subtle. Sometimes we want something, we hardly see it because it's a little bit pleasant. But anger is so strong and so heavy, we can't miss it. So that's a wonderful field for investigation to see how anger works in us. And I noticed how anger works in me. Someone does something to upset you. You hold a trial. Say your husband has done something to upset you. Inside of you, you hold this trial. Like any trial, there's the attorney for the prosecution and the attorney for the defence and the judge. And in the trial we have about someone, there's the attorney for the prosecution, which is us, and we start recalling what he's done, bringing up all of the the past crimes. Last week he did the same, and he did the same again last year, and that's not all he's done. He's done this, that and the other as well. And you bring up all the evidence against the bloke. And then now and again the defence attorney pokes up to cross-examine and say, maybe that's not true, and you shut him up straight away. But the attorney for prosecution goes on and on and on and on. And at the end, when you search again and again and again for things to justify your anger, to prove that this bloke really doesn't deserve even to live. You know, it's one of the very powerful techniques used by psychiatrists, I hear. When someone is really depressed, it means they've had a trial against themselves and they've convicted themselves. I'm guilty, I'm hopeless. Don't know why I was ever born. Just a waste. No use to anyone. Might as well just go and throw myself off a cliff. When anyone is really depressed like that, it's because they have had that trial. And what the psychiatrist does, they give them a piece of paper and a pencil. They say, write down something good about yourself. There's nothing good about me. Oh, come on. There must be something good about you. No, there's not. It's a waste of time. You're wasting your time, shrink. Just go and see someone else. And you have to encourage the person again and again and again for many minutes to write down something good about yourself, something you can be proud about. And after a while I say, okay, I gave the cat a saucer of milk this morning. They write that one down. Okay, something else. They can think of something else. They patted the dog. Something else. A few weeks ago, someone knocked on the door for cancer research. I gave them $1. Something else. When I was young, I used to go and visit old people. Once they'd broken the ice, so to speak, just to turn the head in the opposite direction and started looking for the first good thing about themselves. The second good thing is very easy. The third good thing about themselves is extremely easy. And after another few minutes they filled up the whole sheet of paper about good things about themselves. And they're amazed when they have it before them in black and white that they're not as bad as they thought after all. It's exactly the same, isn't it, when we have a trial against someone else. If we could only write down on a piece of paper the bad, the mistakes, but also the good, we can fill the sheet of paper on each. So having had that trial, can you condemn anyone? Do they deserve your anger? Do they deserve to be hurt and punished? You know, when one does have a fair trial about anybody, when I've tried this, I can't convict them anymore. I can't make any judgment. I always have to leave with an open verdict. If someone's hurt me, and I have a fair trial, I can't get angry anymore. I can't make a verdict. I can't call them guilty. I found good things about them and bad things about them. I just don't know. It's a very wonderful thing to know one can't judge another person. Crikey, it's hard enough to judge myself. When I've done something and I've made a mess of it, it's really hard to judge myself. What was I doing? Why was I doing it? Could I have done something better in the circumstances? It's hard enough when I know a great deal of evidence about me. I can't judge myself. However can I judge another human being to say they deserve punishment? They deserve my anger. I can't do it. So when you do that, you give up anger against another human being, because you just don't know. No matter what they do to you, no matter what they say, if they saw you in half with a two-handed saw, slowly, crunch, crunch, the bones. don't know why, you can't judge them guilty. So in the end, you give up anger. Peace is the highest happiness. And that's what nirvana is like. It's absolute contentment. Just happy with what we have right now. Not wanting anything more, not going anywhere. Content. It's a wonderful feeling when we have that in our lives. Just for a few moments, we have this taste of freedom. Freedom from always having to achieve, to get something, to go somewhere, to be something. Because it's such a pain acquiring things, acquiring achievements. So there is this thing called happiness, and it comes from letting go of anger and desire. And the way to do this in Buddhism is called the Eightfold Path, splits down into the Threefold Path, which is, they call it like morality, meditation and wisdom, Sila Samadhi Panya. This is the basis of the Eightfold Path. This is how to do it, what you should be doing. How to give up desire, how to give up aversion is morality, meditation and wisdom. Morality is really great. Morality means not doing anything which will hurt yourself or hurt another being. And there's a wonderful little definition there of what is moral. Nothing which will hurt yourself or hurt another being. And the two are the same. Whatever hurts you will hurt someone else. Whatever hurts someone else will hurt you. That's an experiential truth which you can find out by reflecting and contemplating one's own actions and experiences. And so the morality is really based on kindness and compassion. That's the source of morality, just being kind. If we really know how to be kind, we're automatically moral. And the second part of the Eightfold Path, or the Threefold Path, the morality is being kind to yourself, being kind to others, is meditation. And how does one meditate? By being kind. Even when one is meditating on the breath, one has to be kind. If you're too hard on oneself when you're meditating, forcing the body, forcing the mind, there's no way it can become still. It's agitated. It's just too tight. One needs to be kind in order to become peaceful. If one is too tough and too strong, the mind never does become at peace. That little caring, the other word for kindness, caring. And the last part of the Eightfold Path, the Threefold Path, is wisdom. And what is one wise about? One is wise about being kind, compassionate. It just makes so much sense. That's what one learns, to be kind to oneself, to be kind to others. So, the Eightfold Path just comes to a single thing, of compassion and kindness. If you can be kind, morality comes into place very easily. If you can be kind, the mind is still and at peace. If you can be kind, there is wisdom there. It's a source of wisdom. You know, when you're kind, you come to peacefulness. Peacefulness and kindness are the same thing. Being peaceful is the kindest thing you can do to yourself, and the kindest gift you can give to other people. If one is in this world, this very difficult world where people have a lot of stress and a lot of problems, rather than trying to solve problems, just to be peaceful is a great boon. You know, whenever you do have to do anything difficult, a difficult interview with a person, a difficult confrontation where you have to say something which the other person may not like, or they have to say something to you don't like. Usually what we do is to go plan what we're going to say first of all. We think it all out. And maybe even as a young man, you used to go out to parties and dances or whatever. And you always have your lines, what you're going to say to the young ladies. But you know what happens? As soon as you get up, you get so confused and excited, you forget what you're going to say and you mess it all up and make a fool of yourself. It's really horrible when that happens, isn't it? And it used to happen to me even afterwards, whenever you were going in to give a talk, or you'd have all this thing all worked out, and when it comes down to it, something will go wrong, you forget what you're going to say, what you're supposed to say, you mess it all up. And after a while it dawned on me, that's not the way to behave in relating to other people. If you really want to relate to other people, just go into any situation, especially if it's a difficult one, just with calmness and kindness in your heart. Don't prepare what you're going to say or what you're going to do. Just make the heart peaceful and kind. It's amazing just how powerful that is. Whatever you do, whatever you say, it's always the right thing. if you have always had a hard time at school, there's a lovely story of one monk in Thailand. He's the sort of monk who gives a lot of people great encouragement. In Thailand they have 4 basic grades of education. Everyone has to do. It's grade 1, 2, 3 and 4. And this poor little fellow, every year in grade 1 when he was examined, he never passed. He did grade 1 about 3 or 4 times, and after 4 times the teacher gave him up. It's a waste of time. Now anyone who's like so stupid in Thailand who can't even pass grade 1, what they do is they send them to the monastery. Get rid of them. Can't use them anywhere else, so maybe send them to the monastery. But unfortunately they sent him to one of these study monasteries where they studied the scriptures and learned Pali. And that was really a waste of time. Even though the abbot there was very compassionate and tried his best to give this poor young fellow special attention, to learn Pali and to read the scriptures, it was hopeless. And as a last resort, they sent him to the meditation monastery, where the real dum-dums go. And of course you can understand what happened there. His mind was just so simple and so clear. But from the very first, when he was first taught how to meditate, he was just an expert. And he could get into very, very deep, peaceful states of mind. Then he became one of the very famous meditation teachers in Thailand. So that's always a nice thing to give hope to those people who haven't got university degrees. You don't need to be intelligent to understand. And sometimes intelligence can stand in the way of understanding. So wisdom is basic compassion and caring. Compassion is what cuts away at the hurt in our body and the hurt in our minds. Most of all, compassion. Wisdom, wise compassion. It stops us hurting ourselves because we make the suffering, no one else does. The law of karma says that if we are suffering, we've done it, we've made it, no one else to blame. You can't complain to anyone else. The law of karma, in brief, is this. You always get what you deserve. That's the law of karma. You always get what you deserve. Tough one, that, isn't it? It's nice to blame someone else. If you're unhappy, it's someone else's fault. The law of karma says you always get what you deserve. You can't blame anyone else, mate. Tough luck. So it's very useful in meditation, in life, to see what you're doing, is it creating happiness for yourself and other beings. If it's not, give it up, let it go. If it is creating happiness, do more of it, whatever it is. That's the teaching of the Buddha. That's the teaching of any wise person. If it's going to make you happy, really happy, and create happiness to others, do it again and again and again and again. What is the state of your mind right now? Is it dull or is it clear? Is it energetic or is it tired? Is it joyful or is it depressed? And once you know what the mind is, you know which tool to use. It's important to know 2 or 3 different types of meditation because the mind is not always the same. So a skillful meditator doesn't do the same thing all the time. That's why I said the first thing one does in meditation is to establish awareness, mindfulness, so you know what you're working with. What does my mind feel like right now? And then you know what meditation tool to choose. And the more one meditates, the more one practices, the more skilled one becomes in using the different tools. So one knows what to do with a dull mind, one knows what to do with an angry mind, one knows what to do with an excited mind which is wandering all over the place, which is full of energy, full of beings. One learns how to turn up the lights in the mind, to create more mindfulness. mindfulness which sees more and more of what's going on and becomes more perceptive of the inner workings of the mind. One notices more about the thoughts and the feelings which run through us. And that's just through practice one learns how to turn up the lights. Effort is very important. Sometimes you say, right, I'm going to really try now. You can do it. Sometimes it's just laziness. It's strange. That's why there was this one monk in about 50 or 60 years ago. He was always getting dull. Whenever he used to meditate, he used to just fall asleep. And so Ajahn Brahmavaṃso just got fed up with him. So he walked with him through the forest, took him to the edge of a cliff, sat him down on the edge of the cliff, and said, right, this is where you're going to meditate all night. And that poor old monk thought, right, this is it, I'm going to die tonight. Because there's no way that he thought he could stay still. But of course, with sort of a 100 feet drop just over there, straight back. Then after just half an hour or 35 minutes, we got into one of the jhana states and stayed there all night. The next time he opened his eyes in front of the cliff, it was dawn. It was time to go on arms round. But he had such great joy and energy inside of him. He thought it was such a gross thing to eat now, so he closed his eyes and meditated for a few more hours. And he went back and Ajahn Brahmavaṃso said, now you know how to meditate. The idea of meditation is to use what one has. And you don't need the perfect monastery, you don't need the deep caves, you don't need absolute silence. You don't need to be away from everyone. And this is the practice of wisdom. The amazing thing about meditation is that not only does it make one peaceful and calm, which itself is a great happiness and joy, but also creates wisdom inside the mind. Ajahn had this wonderful story of when you were sweeping these forest paths in the jungle monasteries in Thailand, so you could walk backwards and forwards. They clear the path of any shrubs and trees. And either once a day or at least once a week, we'd sweep it from any leaves so you could see exactly where you're walking, and so that it would be safe from things like snakes or centipedes or scorpions and things. And the soil in northeast Thailand was very sandy and white, so once you swept the path, it was like this white ribbon through the jungle. And when you were sweeping up, because there were so many trees there, and the trees were always dropping the leaves, you'd be sweeping this path, you get about 10 metres and you look round, and just where you swept, there'll be one or two leaves which has fallen down. And of course, being a perfectionist, most people like myself will be stupid enough to go back and sweep up those two leaves again, which had just fallen down. And it became an endless task because you never finished the path. You finished one section and some leaves would drop down another section. But what was amazing was that once you swept the path, those leaves which were on the path, which had just fallen down, just the one or two leaves on the clear white path really stood out. They were almost, they shone out, they were brilliant. And it's, Ajahn Chah used to say, that's the very same as how insight arises in the mind. The name for insight in Buddhism is vipassana. That's what that word really means. seeing clearly. And the thing is that once the path is clean, you do see those leaves very, very clearly. You see their shape, you understand them, you get to know them. But when there's many leaves on the forest floor, hundreds, thousands, with twigs and shrubs in between, you just can't make head nor tail of the leaf. There's just too much going on there. And that's why wisdom never arises in confusion, in too much activity. Wisdom can only arise when there's a degree of peacefulness in the mind, a degree of clarity. It is the case that life is often too confusing. There's just too many things to think about, too many decisions to make. We're always going too fast. We haven't got time just to look at a single leaf on the forest floor. That's why we can never understand life, because there's too much going on. So the purpose of insight meditation is first of all to calm the mind down, to make it peaceful and still, so that if there is any thought or any emotion which comes up in the mind, it's only a very simple emotion, just one or two thoughts just bubbling through the mind. And you can see those very, very clearly. You can feel their shape and see where they come from and see where they go to. And that's where understanding and insight comes from, by seeing these thoughts with clarity. There's too much going on, one cannot see. One day someone came to see Ajahn Chah and asked him straight, he said, well, you've been meditating for a long time. Is there reincarnation or not? To you, are you born after life or not? And Ajahn Chah shot back and said, if I told you, would you believe me? Before the other fellow had the chance to answer, he said, people who believe others, blindly, they're stupid. And so he said, okay, I wouldn't believe you. So I said, well, there's not much point in telling you then, is there? Well, it's a very powerful teaching, isn't it? Because, okay, so the great master, whether it's Ajahn Chah or the Buddha himself, says, yep, there is reincarnation, absolutely sure, absolutely certain. How can you believe them? You don't know if what they're saying is true or not, if they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes. No, really, you can't believe anyone else. So if you can't believe them, it's a waste of time asking them, isn't it? So how can you know? You certainly can't believe the Bible, you can't believe the Buddhist books, you can't believe any monk, you can't believe your husband, you can't believe your wife. You can't believe any teacher, no matter how marvellous, wonderful, highly attained, great meditator they are or not. We all know what happens when people do believe teachers and gurus. History's been showing that for centuries, but people still go on and believe others. So who can you believe? You just go up, find your tower, climb it and see for yourself. We don't know what we haven't experienced. We can't ask anyone else to give us wisdom for us. If that was so easy, if wisdom was so easy, we could just print it on a pamphlet and distribute it everywhere and everyone would be enlightened and that would be the end of it. So this part of meditation is very much a opening of the mind to insight, to seeing what's going on, to understanding for ourselves. And it's what happens that the more one meditates, the more one starts to understand oneself and understand life. to overcome fear is always facing it, facing up to the fear. One thing I did to overcome fear was to actually sit down in meditation when I was reasonably peaceful and quiet and think about the worst thing that could possibly happen to me. Actually bring it up, the very worst fear. And to me it was always like pain, being tortured was the worst fear. I thought the pain was the worst. Apparently for a lot of people that's not the worst fear. The worst fear for a lot of people is rejection. Rejection of the ego. I'm not good enough. No one loves me or accepts me. For a lot of people that's the very worst fear, even more than physical pain. But whatever it is, sometimes it might be your children, something happening to them that can hurt us more than our own pain. Or getting these terrible, terrible diseases like AIDS or cancer or something, that can be a great fear. But so the only way to get over that fear, because those things are lurking deep in the mind, you have to bring them up. It's only when we think that this is going to be awful, this is going to be terrible, I can't do this. That's where fear comes from. You can handle it. Your resources are really amazing. We underestimate ourselves so much. Have the courage to contemplate what it would be like. And have the wisdom to know that you can handle it. You can be at peace. There's another thing which happens with fear, like consciously, deliberately bringing it up when you feel in a mood, when you feel peaceful and content enough, wise enough to deal with it. Not all the time, because there are times when we don't feel that safe and secure in our wisdom, in our mindfulness to bring up the things we are really afraid of. But sometimes spend time bringing up what you think you're afraid of. Allow it to come to the surface. Stir it up, bring it up. If you feel content and at ease and powerful enough to do so. To contemplate and to realize it will be alright. You can handle it. It's nowhere near as bad as the fear makes it. A lot of times with pain, it's the fear of pain is what hurts us. The pain itself is just a feeling. So if we can let go of fear, life becomes very, very easy and very, very simple. Even though life is basically insecure, we never know what's going to happen. We never know how long we're going to live. We never know what diseases might be running through our body. We never know what might be waiting outside the door for us. We never know what might be happening to our friends and people we love and care for. And a lot of freedom is giving up to the basic insecurity of life. And we try and make this world very secure, don't we, out of fear? Try to have these buildings here with roofs which don't blow off in cyclones, making sure we've got locks on the doors so no one can come in the middle of the night and knife us and kill us. Trying to have police forces to keep all of these mad men and mad women, let's not be sexist about this, out of harm's way. And we even sort of keep mad people and deformed people out of harm's way as well, out of fear usually. We have insurance policies just in case. It's amazing how much we do out of fear, trying to build up security when quite basically there's very little security. Someone said that when they had that big air crash in Lockerbie in Scotland, when this big plane just fell from the sky, they said that life will never be the same again. These residents in Lockerbie, because they were reminded very violently of their insecurity, that even though they're in their nice stone houses with the big roofs and their doors were locked and the policemen were outside in their cars patrolling the streets, that at any time an aircraft could just crash into their house and just demolish them. And they said life was never the same again for them. They didn't have the same sense of security. The false sense of security which we think we have with insurance policies and big houses. Life is basically insecure. We never know what's going to happen. It's very hard to admit that, but that's the way it is. And it's not that bad. Sometimes people think that if you really understand comings and goings, you get very depressed. But people who do have like these terrible cancers, they don't usually get depressed, or some actually do, but a lot of them, that every day becomes wonderful, becomes a great gift. And they put so much more energy into each day, into their personal relationships especially. Life suddenly becomes very, very rich and very full when you think you've only got 3 months to live. It's only when we think that our friends, our husband, our wife is going to be here forever and ever and ever, we get complacent. I can say sorry tomorrow. If we understood what a short time we were here together, we would love one another. If this was the last day that your children were going to be with you, how would you treat them? What would you do with them? It may be their last day together. One day it will be their last day. So make every day the last day you're going to be with that person. And life becomes tremendously rich, very important, very wonderful.
We've heard Loving Kindness, Joyful Art of Buddhist Meditation, presented by Ajahn Brahmavaṃso. On ABC FM Stereo, you are listening to Inner Space with Jaroslav Kovaricek. Tonight, it's the edition number 100. We continue with nice and peaceful music suitable for meditation. Tranquility by David Sun. we heard Tranquility, Part 1. Music by David Sun. And that's all in tonight's edition of Inner Space. Tonight, the program number 100. Earlier in this program we heard Loving Kindness. The Venerable Ajahn Brahmavaṃso was talking about joyful art of Buddhist meditation. Technical production for tonight's program was by Mike Ladd. Inner Space is produced and presented every Saturday evening on ABC FM Stereo by Jaroslav Kovaricek. And I'm wishing you now a very good night. May you be well and happy. Dreaming This Side Up by Peter Banner, and music by 5 other Australian composers on the Dreamtime album, available from ABC shops and all good record stores. Dreamtime, music for relaxation, meditation, and dreaming in stereo.
Mine's bigger than yours. See? Look at mine.
Yes, I'll be back tomorrow evening with Dreamtime at 10:30. The time on ABC FM Stereo is coming to midnight. So now we say a very good morning to Paul Savage in Melbourne.